Good day. It's Wednesday, November the 17th. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. Today we've got CEO Sebastien Mailhot of DBox Technologies. DBox creates physical or haptic feedback systems for the cinema market, at-home entertainment market, including home theater and video games, as well as for industrial or commercial uses. I've interviewed DBO a few times here now, and we're following up with the company given the recovery of their core theatrical business over the last 6 to 9 months. As well, just when everyone was forgetting about VR and AR, it's coming back to the headlines, rebranded via Facebook as the Metaverse, which has reignited interest in the space and everyone's imagination on how it might work and be used for social, gaming, or business and commercial applications. All the tech titans are involved in developing tech in this space, and DBox might have some core technologies that provides great value in some or all of the Metaverse applications. Remember, this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Sebastien, thanks for joining us again. And let's start off, I guess my first question is, are you considering renaming yourselves MetaBox as we all evolve into the Metaverse here?
Hi, Martin. First, thanks for again having us here at your show. So it's really important, and we're happy to have the discipline to be in the market. And to your question, yes, that would be trendy to be renamed Metaverse, but maybe the other trademark we don't have on that one. But definitely, we'll cover later. DBox will be able to play in that field.
All right, and Steve, you're going to walk us through the presentation here. You're on mute.
Perfect. So Martin, we have a really quick presentation. We want to be to the point and keep as much as possible some time to answer the question. We did have a chance as well to have a few shareholders that send us some questions. So we'll try to cover that during the presentation. And we'll focus definitely on the financial highlights, the highlights of the quarter, talking about the consumer velocity, and as well, what is the priority in the upcoming month? And yes, always a bit of the future and definitely talking about the meta. So quick summary, we won't go back on the story. So DBox makes that connection between the body, connect the body with the experience. So bringing closer, bringing the gap closer between what we call definitely immersive experience, so the fiction and reality. So we do provide movement, vibration, and texture to multiple segments. Steve, going to the next slide. So starting with the financial performance. So as we know, the segment of DBox has been hit in the last couple of quarters. We had announced to the public market that we were in a situation that we felt that the first semester of this current fiscal year would be negative, and then target was to move to positive EBITDA for the second semester. So we're really happy to announce that we've been able to achieve positive EBITDA for the current quarters. So reaching at 0.2 million EBITDA. As you see on the quarter performance, after a couple of rough, we're really aiming on the direction that we wanted to be a profitable company as soon as possible. This has been, of course, related to two things. So we have get some strong growth. So you can see a 92% year-over-year growth. So definitely the last couple of quarters, we were more than 3 million range. And now with 5.6 million of revenue kicking in and 1.3 million of recurring, this definitely was able to bring back DBox. We were really happy as well to see the initial days on the trading and what was perceived by the market. Definitely, and then we'll talk about the various segments, but one of the things that has been quite interesting is definitely our rate for use of revenues, or recurring revenue, mostly coming from the theatrical market. So we were the last quarter, we were around 600,000. We're close to 1.3 million. So bringing up, if we put that on a forward for quarter above the 5 million range. So definitely with the margin on those revenues, it's really interesting. Provide feeding on the bottom line, but mostly mention that our theatrical business and the appetite for premium experience is really there for the consumer. So that's been there.
Sebastien?
Yep.
As people are coming back into the theaters and that people want, like you can see on most movies now from home and you're going out to get the more experience. Are you seeing a higher ratio of people buying premium seats in the movie theaters with the DBox enhanced experience there? Or can you give us some general statistics on or insight into what types of moviegoers are going to the theater and how they're sort of using that?
Yeah, definitely. And Martin, that's a good point. So definitely premium is going mainstream. So yes, before the COVID, there was IMAX, there was DBox, there was various companies that were bringing there. And that was the reason that the box office was maintaining. But this is even true right now because, of course, we know there's more competition about streaming. But as well, it does mean even more. And when people are going to the movie, they want to pay more to get the best experience. So the 1.3 million we got to, and I'll give you a couple of, we have movie that even if, let's say, currently we can say that maybe the overall world is probably open at 80% plus. Some countries are closing, reopening, but let's 80%, but there's still social distanciation. And the 1.3 million made that really interesting, meaning it's with a limited number of seats that we had in the past. So we see that. You see a lot of movie as well, even if they both open in streaming and at the movie, that are getting best result than some movie pre-COVID. So we did have Black Widow that was there. We had Shang-Chi as well that opened in the close to 100 million. So yes, we do see that trend. And an important thing that happened as well. So a couple of studios decided that at some point in time, they would be launching their movie in streaming and as well in theatrical. But if you look at the latest announcement, and because of the economics of building a movie and the money they left on the plate, Disney and other studios have backed off about getting those premium movie at the same time, meaning they will keep a 45, going to 45, some is later than that, days of window protection for the theatrical business. So it does confirm that the business economic for theatrical movie is to launch first on big movie at the cinema, to get the best things available, get those premium, and after that, moving to a streaming mode a couple of weeks later. But yes, this is definitely something like that. I'm going to be coming back as well, Martin, on the next slide around that. But yes, there's that trend on premium that we see that. There's another example I can provide without saying the name. We have one of our big exhibitors that made some trial as well about optimizing our seats, and the return they're getting is double the occupancy of a standard seat that they have right now compared to what they have. Before that, we were a little more, but now they moved to the. So that's quite interesting to see that those seats like DBox are getting more tickets sold in comparison to standard seats.
And what you mean by that is, let's say if there's a 30% occupancy rate in the regular seats, you guys would be getting a 60% occupancy, something like that.
Yeah, so it's really double occupancy. Yeah, as you mentioned, not those figures, but in terms of relation, yes. So
gotcha.
the traditional industry is probably 10 to 15. I'm not saying on a Saturday, on a Friday, but throughout the years, probably 10 to 15. Some VIP room maybe 20. So yes, that gives you what we can provide in terms of occupancy rate of our seat, and again, still in social distanciation. Yeah, that's interesting for the future.
Are all of your seats open for business now, or are there still some in lockdown markets, or only half of them are open in a theater for social distancing?
Around the world, like I mentioned, we're probably saying it's 80 to 85%. Some country has been open at 90%, 100%. But as an example, Australia was open. Now it was closed for a couple of months, and now they're reopening. So if we're looking at the globe, let's talk about 80, 85%. But domestic is more in the 90% plus.
All right.
The last thing that was important as well is on the balance sheet. So definitely we made a round in March, and it was important for us to bring that. So we still have in our balance sheet close to 7 million. Now at a level of EBITDA positive. So again, saying we have a good balance sheet for upcoming project that we have in upcoming quarters. So that's roughly the financial performance. Again, linking that to highlights, mostly I'll start with the commercial segment, moving to on the consumer segment. So in the commercial segment, one of the things that's been interesting, and it's, Martin, related to your question, and this was not something we forecasted that strong. So in the last 6 months, we have announced 37 screens to be installed. So based on the post-COVID, the financial situation of our exhibitor, we were really fortunate to have all those lineup. These cover, of course, domestic market, Asian market, and Europe. So this for us is really good. screen to be installed in the next 12 to 24 months. So of course, it's been announced, but the good news is they're going to be hitting our revenue and bottom line in the upcoming quarters. So that's a good start. That's a good start of the number of screen in the market in a post-COVID quickly. Second segment as well that we had less visibility 6 months ago was everything that we call theme entertainment. So of course, arcade, museum, local-based entertainment, so all those small entertainment venues. So when we started the year, pretty much everything was closed, but we're really rapidly seeing between Q1 and Q2 some accelerated booking and sales from those markets. So again, another market that seems to be booming quicker than we thought. Another that I wanted is really, and if our shareholders are looking at the market, is the racing traction. So, and mostly I'll focus on one thing, what we call racing rooms. So there's a big trend right now about Porsche, Mercedes, F1, and all those brands to make the connection with real racing and the future of racing. What I mean is, of course, everyone is that watch F1 or things like that, those passionate fans are going to see the real thing. But we all know that teenagers, youngsters like to race into simulator. So the trend of all those brands is to build more and more racing simulators. So putting 10, 20, 25 simulator for entertainment purposes. And because of the fact to find the new pilot of the future. So as they're going to be bringing kids like that, it's going to be to connect them to REN, connect them to F1. And of course, with all the telemetry they can get from those racing room, finding the people that might be pilot of the future. So again, this is not meta, but it's a connection about how to connect with people that are doing racing virtually, and that you're bring them to an actual world in the future. The enable Adrenaline is one of our new sponsors, so one that's going to be looking to do a lot of those racing rooms. We have a few signed with them, so that's why it's interesting. So it's not recurring revenue, but it's going to be repeat order for our system. So this is probably more on that segment. Definitely, our professional simulation is the resilient market. So it's growing year after year. It's a market that is more long sales cycle because it's really industrial, military, etc. But has had a foundation and it keep on growing on that aspect from a car, plane, etc. But all industrial machinery is going more and more to small footprint simulators.
I've always thought that that the industrial commercial side would be a really big market, especially as like you get remote controlled mining trucks and things. So where it's not just more matter of fun, you actually get good feedback, like to drive a safer crane or whatever, if you've got that kind of feedback there. Is it just it's a growing part of your business, but it's still relatively small? Is it just the industry hasn't kind of gotten there yet, or what do you see sort of the path forward or the segments within the commercial industrial space that are going to be your biggest clients?
Good point, Marty. There's two trends in the professional simulation, but to your point, the only thing I'll mention from the start, this is a slow acceptation industry. So I'll use military. It's not like that, but military, they're going to get a contract to integrate, let's say, simulator, and project might be out in 5 years from there. So all those John Deere's, Caterpillar. So the good news is when you're here for a long period of time, but usually they're integrating those one over multiple quarters. So this is really the speed that they're looking. The two trends that are there is the first one, of course, aviation has their big simulator like CAE. Now, yes, the trend that is evolving, not fast enough, but consistently is definitely small footprint simulator. So how to put someone into a simulator that might cost $25,000, $50,000 instead of $5 million, and mostly being able to do the training locally instead of having to, let's say, fly the pilot to a center that might be in America and Europe. So that's the first trend. The second trend as well that they're looking is as an uptick else in that capacity is they're talking about desktop training. So of course you move to big simulators, you would have, let's say, $50,000 simulators, but there's a lot of things that could be done. Let's think about a school room, right? That would have 40%, and that it would be sitting some kind of a gaming chair, and they will be able to fill some of those trainings. So that's where as well that training is exploring using some kind of gaming seat approach to be able to deliver some of those training from a big group instead of one by one. What is a trend? But yes, slow adaptation.
Okay.
Consumer foundation. So I'll answer in twofold. First, what we did, what is upcoming, and I've got, of course, a question about saying why the heck, but is the product not there? So I'll answer those three segments. First, right now, consumer foundation. This year was important, as we said, to have multiple product launches. So we did announce Cooler Master. We're a public company. We cannot announce which we cannot announce, but we're looking to have another announcement around gaming before the end of the year. We're looking to have another announcement into the racing before the end of the year, another home announcement before the end of the year. That's the more, Martin, I can say on those one. So this there. That's the first thing on consumer velocity. And like I said, these products are all going to be in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, meaning for the full product. What does that mean? And this is a combination of our strategy. It's a combination of the supply chain disruption that I'll talk later. So definitely those products, we're all looking at early adopters. We're looking at gaming fan, racing fan, movie fan. So not a niche, but a portion of the market. We're not talking again to be mass market. And this is true because of a strategy to make sure that we launch with those products, we exchange with those consumers, we learn from it. And after that, we arrive with more products. So this is one thing. Yes, there's been a delay of some product. We all watch the news, right? The car industry are saying they're missing product. The Apple say is going to be that. So there's component missing all around the place. When it's not DBox, it might be our suppliers. So yes, there's a delay probably of 3 months about just trying to find pieces, etc. So yes, some product that were supposed to be launched before Christmas will be a couple of months late. Am I happy with that? The answer, Martin, is no. Is it reality? The answer is yes. If anyone on the audience wants to take the job of the supply chain, nobody wants, because there's some component that you run around the world just to find a wire, just to find something. And when you find it, sometimes a $5 wire might cost $52 if you want to have it right now. So that's the reality. And that's what's something that all companies have to live, and DBox is not different. So that's one of the reasons that some of the product is on there. Another thing I want to mention as well is people like, and we had a lot of shareholders saying, Sebastien, you should be working with big partners, you should be working with volume partners. That's what we're doing. Good news and the bad news. The good news, and instead of integrators selling by 20 units, 30 units, 50 units, we're talking in 500, thousands of units. So it means that when you kick them off, definitely it's going to have an impact. The bad news or the reality is if you take a partner, they're going to be saying, without the supply chain impact, launching a product from the initial discussion to putting it in the end of the consumer, it's 12 and some goes to 18 months. So people say that's not reality. Well, we talk with all of them because in their process, they're looking at the product, they're looking at testing with consumer, they're going to their network, they're making the branding, they're making strategic positioning. So this is reality. So yes, if we're looking at Cooler Master that we announced, my memory is correct, in December 2020, we should have had a product into the field by December. But of course, why it's not there yet, I just mentioned that. So this is important for us. We're getting visibility that we can to the street. That's good news as well, because where we wanted to be this year up to the number of product launch where we're more than we wanted to have, but definitely the impact of the revenue and the product in the market has been delayed. So this is for the consumer foundation. Another thing as well, maybe too important for the crowd, is our gaming product are getting launched with a focus on PC. Two reasons for that. First, the partner, Cooler Master, and the other one to be announced, wanted to have a PC focus. That's one.
And Sebastien,
yes.
Sorry, when you say PC, you're that's in contrast to console gaming.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yeah, because one of the things, if we launch console, you have to go game by game. You have to go compatibility with Xbox. You have to go compatibility with PlayStation. This takes time. And even if you have the compatibility, that means that you could have 3, 4, 5 games to start, new games. the good news is the way we structure our technology in our haptic is when we're going to be launching our gaming chair with PC, 100% of the game will be available in DBox. So this is a big thing. That's what we felt was the best strategy from the gamer, to have as much feedback as we can on how they use gaming, how they appreciate gaming, why they do that, etc. So that's why the focus on PC. So console is still our strategy focus for next year, but we pivot from a console to PC based on strategy and the best offering from a consumer standpoint.
Sebastien, so just to clarify, you're saying every video game out there will be compatible with the Cooler Master chair?
Yeah, so both providing motion and as well all the vibration and texture. So yes, if you would go in the future to Valve, all the games that are on Steam and things like that, Steam, you're going to be able to have that. So yes, 100% of the game will be available, compatible with DBox haptic.
Will there be the ones that are, and I forget the partner you announced a couple years ago, they do the sound systems for video games. Yeah. Where they're integrating it. So is there going to be sort of like different levels? If you're Pac-Man, to be absurd about it, you'll get beep, 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 your chair will rumble a little bit, but it won't really know what's going on. Where it's designed from the start to have it, it'll have a much more enhanced system. So there'll be some games that are kind of cool and then some games that are really cool with it. Is that how it's going to be kind of broken up?
It's a good point. So I'll put 3 layers on the content gaming strategy, if I can say. So yes, to your point. So let's solve the initial experience going to be a DBox standard experience. So it's going to be providing the full experience. That being said as well, Martin, as you were saying, so that's the first layer, providing haptic, DBox haptic on multiple games. As you mentioned, the second level, when we're going to be more customizing a game, is definitely to bring that to improve the richness, more in the storytelling and working with the creator. So that's the second level. When we made a Ubisoft announcement, Assassin's Creed, or in the studio, this is the second layer as well, having haptic on everything, but work on specific games that are premium for consumer and with the partners, and moving with those as high fidelity experiences. So another level of haptic, more things that could be thought from the get-go. Where Wise fits into the audio kinetic is, this is right now. In the future, DBox will control the monetization of gaming and the subscription. But Wise, what's interesting is we're going to be providing the tools to all creators to add DBox haptics to any type of game, being you, Martin, in your garage, being the university, being a student, or being Ubisoft. They're going to be able, so we're giving the tools to gamers to integrate that in any future game. So that's going to be the part which was, of course, not essential from the start, but is really essential in the future to have a connection with the studio. And after that, being in every game, they're going to be set it as they're adding audio feature, there's going to be adding haptic feature with them. But even with that tools, I want to repeat that the system is controlled that we monetize, so they can add haptic to any game. But to monetize the game, they have to talk with us, or the haptic is locked from a commercial point of view.
So where they now have a sound engineer who says, okay, we'll make this sound and that, they're going to have haptic engineers saying, okay, we want this kind of vibration and your chair to shift a little bit to the left or whatever, when these kind of motions happen. Is that kind of how it's going to be?
Yeah, so in the process of making a game, they have, as you're saying, audio people that are entering sound. So haptic is like entering sounds because of their frequency. So that's where as well, at that same, I'll say that post-production, but at the end of the game, that's where they're going to be adding haptic when they're adding audio, because it's going to be using the same tool.
Okay.
Quickly on something that people should go. So definitely a new website. So I'm going to be saying one thing on websites. Every time there's a new website, someone is not happy with it. So that's real life in any company. So we make 2 inroads with the website. Another section that created first on the new website. Of course, there's not just cover consumer. We have changed all the foundation to be able to bring more sales leads. So to generate more sales, when I'm going to be integrating consumer partner or commercial partner to be able to from a numeric standpoint and link generation standpoint to make a better link to get some sales. So that's one thing that's been the rebuilding of the site. We're not a direct selling company. Some would want that we do that, but right now it's not a decision that we're aiming. We're working with our partners, but there's going to be a connection with our site and our partner to be able to pick orders. The second part, which is interesting, is called DBox Plus. So of course, we wanted to have an area that was more like when you enter on Netflix, right? You see all the movies, you can engage. So we put a foundation that people can connect. So of course, you have a presentation more like a Netflix to see all the movie with all those images, etc. People can engage. There's gamification. So we're creating that fan base in this area to connect with all our users. So this is something that has been just launched. I invite people to go see it. You can register, etc. But definitely bring something that we didn't have in the past, meaning a more consumer-friendly world to play in and to build from the future. Quickly, cyber attack. So it's been announced, it's been settled. So I just want to say, we said there was no significant impact on the business. Just want to say that, of course, we have recovered with that cyber attack. No data has been lost, no thing, etc. No lawsuit, no, etc. So this is really important. Yes, we did have an impact on our engineering for a couple of weeks and the business, but this has been all settled. And as well, one thing that is important to know is, of course, there's everything we do in theatrical is quite secret, and there's a high level of security. So this is a different system that we're having. So nothing was attacked. And on that capacity, one thing I want to say as well that is interesting. So in the past, all movie that needed to be coded for Hollywood needed to be in LA because there's certification, TPN, etc., security. So now Montreal is a TPN area as well. So we're able to code Hollywood movies, something that was impossible before COVID. So as an example, the last June was coded out of Montreal. So we're quite happy as well of the feasibility, and that gives us what DBox has a credibility with the studio.
Was that partially triggered? You're getting, they trust you, so they're willing to do that. But was it part of the whole COVID thing where everybody kind of had to make compromise and said, hey, to give you better service, we need to open up a Montreal studio?
No, it was not related by cyber attack and not related to COVID. The only thing I could say it was related to COVID is I think the COVID period has increased the necessity of transformation of studio, thinking more like technology company than old dinosaur. So before that, they were all secret and everything, but now it needs to go faster. So yes, let's say they open a bit their architecture, if I can say so, their capacity to be able to move faster. So this is probably an impact of the streaming against us and how to advance more quickly. Supply chain we discussed about, so we don't know it's going to be we still know that for the next year we're going to have impact. The bad news is we're having more sales than we can deliver. So we're making miracles to optimize the sales. And yes, so there's capacity on the availability of components. We're fighting every week, and as well on the price. So when I said that we launched a consumer product between 2,000 and 3,000, we wanted to launch below that, but we want to make money. So definitely there's price increase right now. We did price increase into our commercial product, but in the consumer, we did have to sell a little higher than we thought while maintaining growth margins, because that's the life in 2021. We'll see at the end of 2022, but we still know that's a few quarters, unfortunately, to handle. If any shareholders have some components to provide me, just call Steve or me, we'll buy them. Priority in upcoming quarters, so definitely we're able to reach EBITDA, but that's, like I said, we want to have growth, but the positive EBITDA needs to stay there. So that's one thing. As we're saying, we have great recovery of our market. So this is as well. We did add a foundation of 30 million as well of those revenues. So we have a great traction to go there. As I mentioned earlier, gaming this year is about launching multiple product and working more as a product roadmap. So when Apple announced a product, it was not thought 6 months in advance. So with our key partners, we're looking at the product we're launching and as well other product to launch. So of course, we should, again, signing and announcing more gaming accessory manufacturer, both from a racing, gaming and home. It's important. Consumer product, we need to launch and learn. So all people, Martin, yourself, Steve, myself, all things, but the only thing that's going to be matter is the consumer opinion, right? And to connect with them and to make all the adjustment. Will we be perfect? I hope so, but the answer is probably not. But that's where it's important to launch those product and we adapt both in terms of offering, content, what they want to have, price points, where they buy it, and this is an important part. And supply chain we talked about. One thing I can just mention as well, Martin, because we had the question about the JMAR project that we launched roughly, let's say, a year and a half ago. So quickly said, people, so we announced JMAR project. What happened with that? Say first, people are saying we don't hear about that. So first, the JMAR project was a first more interesting inroad into the home. The product has been repositioned more in the home theater market. As people have looked, it was more a recliner. That's where the first phase that we did, because of course it was started the COVID. So we worked with local partner compared to international partner. That's how there's one. So that product is definitely more a product you can customize. You can buy many letters, etc. And even the price of furniture have increased. So we're having good traction into the home theater, but it's less a product that people buy for their lunches or their living room from an entertainment standpoint. Secondly, as well, there was some things with JMAR as well from the working with Wayfair and Amazon. So there's good thing about those people and bad thing about those one. So I'll give an example. When we launched on Wayfair, Wayfair decided to change the price, wanted to sell just to make more money on their side. So it brought the product at the price we were not happy to launch into the market. So that's why we moved that product to the home theater abroad and more customized, because that was the only way to make money for both partners. So this is probably, I'm just looking at my sheet if I had another question, if you want to move to the other slides. This is where there's a future. I think, Martin, I'm sure you're going to have questions. You started the meeting with the Meta, DBox, etc. So I can start with that, and of course get your answer. So the good thing that I want to start from the left side on the haptic is there's a trend, which of course I'm going to be connecting to the Meta, that people more and more are trying to give not just experiences, but trying to live the experiences, being at home, being in cinema, as it was the real thing. So they're trying to minimize the gap between the immersive or the fiction experience to the reality. So DBox has been in that word for a long time. Now they put a word we call haptic 2 years ago or a year ago, and now everyone is talking about haptic. So the good news I can be saying, and no matter what's going to be there, the strategic position of DBox is really good. Will we win every battle, every market, etc.? The answer is no. We don't have 200 million in the bank account. The more our stock is going to go up, we're going to be able to attack more projects. But people want that we grow. People want to make money. But mostly, people want that the stock price that they pay, that we go to a higher level. So we have a responsibility about providing return and as well making sure we made the strategic move to be relevant. But we're in the good fit. Same thing for Meta. Martin, I think the interesting thing about Meta, I would make a comparison to the operation of the word haptic. 2016. Everything was about VR. Everything was about augmented reality. It was the big thing, million, billions, etc. So Meta, and of course, what was virtual reality was to, again, trying to minimize the gap so the people could feel as being in the real thing, in the actual. So the term Meta for me is nothing new in terms of it, but it does confirm the trend that a lot of money is going to be filled to try to fill that gap between fiction and reality. And this will become, of course, the experience, the type of content. And yes, the more you're in the fiction world, involving your body, meaning haptic, is key into that experiences. So that's why, so for haptic was good, and that trend I think is important. But the only thing I can say is DBox needs to be positioned in this. Again, the haptic is going to be relevant and is relevant in this. Same thing, people, when there's a new buzzword around, people say, Sebastien, invest 20 million into Meta. Well, if we would have done that in VR 5 years ago, well, probably would have lost the 20 million, etc., and have shareholders crying or yelling at the management. So yes, that's something we're looking for. That's something we're in connection. And now we have to, same thing we had in Vita, how to make money. There's a question, how do you make money in esports? A lot of money, but how many people make money in esports? It's more and more business model like upcoming. It's going to be the same thing in Meta. Before the big things, there's already Meta down there. The gaming play might decide to do his own world. Fortnite is some kind of Meta that you have music shows in that, etc. So it's going to be for us to prove what should be the showcase that DBox should be work on to position that while making money, not just spending money.
All right. I'd like to go back to the theatric business.
Yep.
And I was wondering if, sort of, as you're an insider in that, maybe give us some insight into what's going on in the theatric business overall. I'm guessing is the theatric industry is going to be smaller but better in the future. There'll be fewer seats because people are going to be watching stuff at home, but when they go to the theater, they're wanting a better experience, and presumably DBox will be a part of that. And I guess that takes a lot of investment from the theaters, and like the whole AMC meme stock thing, they can raise some money. And do the theaters have the balance sheets and the cash flows to invest to make this sort of smaller but better universe for people to go into? And I guess with that, can you just talk about the theatric industry right now, just to give us some insight into what's going on there?
Yeah. No, first, I'll give some figures. So first, in terms of box office, that gives a bit of the market. So in 2021, the box office is going to be for the full year roughly 55 to 60% of the level of 2019, which was a really good year. So if we take aside the pandemic. So of course, 60% for whole year. So it might be more 80% for the end of the year and 40%. So that, where is it? So we can already see in terms of where is the market right now, that we're probably in the 80% range in terms of market traction. So that is one component. Second component as well, and Martin, it's really important, and you mentioned that, is the DBox, the premium market is there and people are spending money. Before COVID, sometime we were in competition with, the ice cream machine, because the ice cream machine could have an ROI of 6 months. But an ice cream machine doesn't bring your consumer to the movie. When the consumer is there, you can make money selling him ice cream. So here, there's that trend. But to your point, Martin, this is really important. And that's what I think we're going to have to select partners, is definitely a lot of chains have been affected financially. So that's why our initial assumption for the current year was that it would be close to nil in terms of capex from that industry. So that's why our announcement of 37 screen, we were really happy. There's some country that we saw that they subsidized to have funding program for the government. So they went from getting in trouble about if you want to reinvest into your movie. So as an example, we had a partner recently that were supposed to go into more a JV mode. And after that, he says, Sebastien, we had a financing, we'll buy it. So to that point, Martin, we sell most of our screen. DBox has done that in the past to make sure that we were bringing money in. So the financial situation is going to be important to look at if we decide to go in some joint venture, so you don't put some stuff out there, but the company is not able to market with that. The third thing that I think would be happening, I'm not saying it's going to be, is a couple of years ago, there was a consolidation about people buying more screens, like buying chain, etc. So it was a footprint game. But most of the people that went into that frenzy, there was a Chinese frenzy, but went into that frenzy, now they have too many cinemas. They need to close some because they have some dogs. One of the things I think that we see the trend is I see premium combining into the future, because of course, for everything that we have said, it's going to be a nice market. People are going to be focusing on the premium experiences, but premium experiences probably target 3 screens out of 10 or 15 onto a big exhibitor, right? A big location, because the key movie are going onto 1, 2, or 3 screens. So I think I'm going to see more people talking to combine premium. I'm just giving an example. it might be DBox might be talking to Dolby or to Barco to combine an offering, because we're selling to the same customer, we're installing with the two teams, we're selling with two teams, etc. So that's why I think there should be a fit about getting the best experiences, while people in the past were trying to sell all on their own. I think it all just makes sense to combine and have something and lower the cost of getting to those partners. So this is some of the trend, Martin, I see in theatrical. So yes, as you were saying, the domestic market is more a flat market, but for us, there's probably our market is to tailor the 2, 3, 4 main key screen on every location, and to focus on the good chain that have a good financial capacity.
Yeah, I was looking. I forget your financial statement. So there are roughly 200,000 screens out in the world, I believe.
Yeah, let's use that round figure. So yes, this is roughly it. I would say it's probably cover, I would say 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, but the third of Asia, let's say, it's just a little more. So maybe it's 30, 30, 40. So 1/3 being America, so Canada, US, LATAM, 1/3 being the Asia market, moving more to 40%, and 1/3 being the rest of the world. So when you take that big things of screen, because most of the countries that have been announcing screen has been Asia, well, in terms of big growth, but of course, it doesn't mean that they add screen, that there's people in their screen. So that's a different story. But yes, that's the level of screen. And yes, the domestic market, America, is relatively flat. There's more consolidation, change the screen of adding new screens. And, and so people are saying, for me, our key market of that is 20% of that. Like I said, again, focus on the first 2 screen of, let's say, a location would have 10 screens. Sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's 16, but that's also meaning that the market $40. Let's say we use 200,000. Our initial market is more to be in 20% of those screens. Then that's our true target market.
So 20% of 200 is roughly 40,000 screens. Yep. And I believe you're in, what, 750, 800 screens right now?
Yeah, in that range. And yes, a little less than 20,000 seats before the one that we're going to be installing. So yes, that's where we are in terms of.
Yeah, so you're still at sort of the early stages of market share of even your segment there.
Yeah, and like I said, that we see a nice growth, etc. These are long cycle with theatrical, 12, 18, 24 month, their budget scheme. And when you work with big chains, usually they're going to be installing a few, 5, 6. After that, moving to a rollout of 20, because it's not just getting the capex. They need to prepare the room. They need to do that. They need to install everything. So usually, when you do 20 screens with a big chain a year, it's a lot. We did 1 year, I think 50 with Cinemark, but that was such a blitz. Yeah.
Moving on to the video game industry, when you in the market research you and your partners have been doing, do premium high-end video game users, do they really understand what you guys do? You're not just sort of a subwoofer underneath the chair, where you really add some haptic motion to it. And what I'm getting to is, are you really going to have to create you've got a good brand, like it's a remarkable brand in the theater business where you're sometimes bigger than Dolby is on the movie posters. But in the video game market, what kind of education do you need to do, or brand, where they know it's sort of a DBox sort of authorized or really engineered video game out there? Do you have a lot of work to do on that side?
Well, definitely we're going to have some work, but if to try to answer your question simply, well, if we look at in the racing, in the gaming, there's gaming and there's racing under gaming, but in the racing, haptic is there for a long time, so let's put that one aside. But there's been people with simulator. But if we talk about gaming, people using joystick, things like that to game. The good news is, first, and of course we all know PlayStation decided to put haptic, etc., and that's been the best console ever. So there's been various things happening in gaming, so people start to know more what haptic is all about. And like I said, the thing on PlayStation is more a marketing stuff, because they didn't build a lot into the story right now, but it's been a frenzy and everything. So the good news is, on the consumer side, at least, there's a notion when you talk quickly that haptic can bring something. And as well, when you talk with the gaming seats, they already, like all the gaming seats company or the gaming accessories company, they're building the experience of the future, because even let's say for console and PC, they compete to mobile gaming that people are just gaming everywhere. So they already have product roadmap looking about how they can use haptic or immersivity either on a joystick, either on headphones, either on the seats, because that's their bread and butter, right? They want to have a gamer seated at a specific area where they're going to be spending dollars, compared to someone gaming onto a tablet or a phone, which is going to be doing that in the bus. So the good news is we have very few on that part teaching to do. But I think the teaching that's going to be important is to adapt the haptic to the taste of consumer. And I'll give an example. Some might be, and that's why when we're going to be launching, that's why it's going to be important to connect with them, to exchange with them. And I'll take just a simple example. Haptic can help performance, and haptic can help entertainment. As an example, if you have performance and let's say you're Call of Duty, right, and you're getting shot in the back, if you have a reaction on the back of your seat, etc., and you know there's someone without having to look at something, you get additional clue that could help your performance. So this is an part. But people could just say, I like haptic because it gives me into it, and like as I was there, etc. So that's why it's going to be important to discuss with gamers, sit with them, adapt to the type of game to see what would be the wow factor that's going to be more interesting for them. And this is with all our ideas. We use user to do some surveys, but that's why I think it's going to be the teaching or the adoption. That's what we're going to. And the PC gaming, what is interesting, and there's blog and there's people we can connect because people are already used to customize their experience, right? The joystick, the keyboard, the flash, etc. So by getting them into our story of adapting the haptic and telling us about what they do, that's where I think should be the focus to get the best chocolate cake recipe as soon as possible for the gamers.
Right. Your gaming products are all high end, as you said, they're a couple $1,000s and so forth.
Yep.
Is there a strategy you have where you provide like a limited like seat cushion on my chair where it gives me a bit of a sense of that? And I go, wow, this is pretty cool. Imagine having a whole chair like this. So you have more of an entry level limited sensation product and kind of get people hooked on it and move them up the value chain.
Yeah, so Martin, to that point, yes. So definitely this year, I'm not saying like a Dolby approach, so we wanted to, of course, because of various reasons, but to focus on, I would say, the gaming, the maybe 20% of the market, which are more the core and people spending money, etc., because that's where you build the experience and what they want. And definitely, yes, we're looking to have a product below 1,000 for haptic, DBox haptic for gaming. But one thing is important as well. It's better that the important part is that people understand that they're willing to pay for haptic and why they pay for haptic. Even if we'd be paying, let's say, a product at $9.99, I know our shareholder would be thrilled. But if I put that on a shelf somewhere, right, it doesn't mean, Martin, you just walk by and you know what to do with that. So that's why experiences about good titles, gaming, influencer will be key to create that the people that are the early adopters to move after that to a more broader mass. Because, like I said, that's the angle where we're aiming and not just reducing the cost. But yes, below 1,000, it's definitely a target, let's say, for next fiscal year.
All right. I have a question here. Someone typed in, is DBox able to capture real life motion cues on the actual set of a motion picture production? For example, can you use haptic sensors on the actors or stunt people to pick up the actual vibrations and motions?
The answer is yes. I'll give an example. We're using DBox can code, like I say, like effects. We're adding manually or through AI or automation some effects. So that's one. So the question that you just had, and I'll take an example. When we do racing, we use cars and we put, again, sensor into the car to capture various type of information, and we're able to play that in real time or to record that and play that of our future experience. So yes, the capacity to connect the sensor, right, and to get that data is important. Some sensor are real time, like telemetry that you can have, and some sensor is, let's say you would have a GoPro camera and there would be sensor of geo positioning, etc. We could extract that at the end of the day. The only thing is also yes, that capacity to connect with sensor is possible with DBox. And if we think longer term past the question, if you talk about racing, so now people race with gaming, right? The second thing, and we did that 3 years ago, even in Montreal, that we did something, you could have a pilot driving the official course and being, let's say, in private, let's say we go in the paddock and feeling the race as you would be the pilot in real time. We did that 3 years ago with Lance Stroll. And in the future, if you talk in the future, and of course there's broadcasting technology to be embedded, but you could be at home picking your pilot and feeling the whole race of, let's say, Hamilton, might not be there in 5 years, but getting his track, getting what we call telemetry, the real life queuing, and be able to live the race as he's doing it.
That sounds like the metaverse to me.
Yes, so that's what I said, the virtual, etc. And the important part of all those projects, Martin, and I'm getting excited as well, and we are, is making sure, like, if DBox work on a product alone, right, we're going to be spending lots of money. So it's important that those product arrange well, there's a lot of people putting some real cash in, and that we're part of that project. And yes, there's interesting thing to be announced, and sometimes it takes more time, but sometimes it's more adoption, politics, and things like that to bring that. But yes, from racing, there's more interest about that segment, about connecting the F1 to the real user. So that might be a sector that connection might happen sooner than other markets.
All right. Well, we're almost up to an hour here. I think we should start wrapping things up. It sounds like the next few months there could be some good news flow, hopefully, coming out of DBox, which is we're all looking forward to that. So, Sebastien, do you maybe just any closing comments or highlight any things that maybe you want to note, or maybe that we missed over our conversation?
Well, yes, the first thing that, well, thank you for having us, and the audience, thank you for attending. So one thing that is I want to finish is important is DBox is well positioned in the future, and we're trying to give more visibility we can to the crowd. And yes, there are things we control and things we don't control, but I'm quite happy with the trajectory we're aiming. We have to remember that 12 months ago, we were still in COVID, limited balance sheet, negative EBITDA, etc., and people thought DBox was dead. So I think we have a good positioning. And yes, of course, we live the challenges. We're paid to find solution. But the only thing we can be saying is our commercial market is picking up really well. Theatrical is not dead, and we'll have recurring. And yes, where we were to be, maybe people would want more than that in terms of consumer. If we take a 3-month gap because of the supply chain, that's where we are with our product. Consumer is going to be a 2 years to 3 years time frame launch for me, I see, before we see a more mass market adoption. We're moving from tens to hundreds of units by customer to the 1,000 and 10,000. That's the next range. And yes, I would love to sell 1 million, etc. So hopefully it would be next year, but I don't think it's going to be next year, but the market is there. So this is where we're saying Steve is always there to get questions. Again, we try to answer questions that we can, be as visible as we are. But of course, we don't have 200 million in the bank account. I'm not Apple. I'm not Facebook. But yes, we talk with them and find a strategic way to get DBox excited and our stock excited. That's our currency. The best the stock's going to be, of course, we're working on that. The best, of course, we're going to be able to attack or tackle bigger project with a sound financial return for our shareholders.
All right, Sebastien, thank you very much for chatting with us. I'm looking forward to hopefully chatting with you again in a few months after a bunch of deals have been announced. So thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Martin, again. Thank you, everyone.